Hi there, and welcome back to the amazing collection unboxing. We are on box number 84, and this is going to be a fun week. We have Breyer, 5 bulls, 2 Friesians, and 1 Bison special run to keep. Sounds like an exciting box. Let's get started. First up, we have one of the Frisians. This is, joking not joking, the horse that shall be not named. It is the Frisian mold in a black pinto. I think he was a regular run, early 2000s-ish. Very nice color. Very popular black and white pattern. Very popular mold at the time. The old Frisian's still my favorite. And Matt, he's actually in very nice condition. And that's all I remember about him. So, moving on. Alright, we have our second Frisian. This guy, he's in a bag, which gives me a clue. I think this was one of the holiday special runs from either Sears or Penny's in that same time frame, like the early 2000s. And this is the Frisian mold in a wild leopard Appaloosa. Yeah, so like I said, it's probably a Christmas special run. I can't remember his name, but just looking at the horse, I'm going to say lots of spots. And he probably came in a set with 1 or 2 others. I think we might have run into the horses that he came with, but I honestly don't remember. Breyer did a really nice job with him. So he's alabaster underneath, then he has a lot of gray shading over his body, and he actually has 2 colors of these Appaloosa spots. It's a black and it's a dark charcoal, so it's not just a single color, it's got a little bit more depth to it. And then they striped his mane and tail, and kind of messily, which is cool because that's the way his mane and tail is. Super nice looking, very attractive. And they're all going to be different, so if you're a collector, you could go crazy on the variations. He's a little heavier in the spotting up on his head, and then it kind of gets a little less down on his flank. So maybe if I was a collector, I might spend a little time looking for somebody that was a little more evenly dappled, or maybe I'd like him that way. But either way, he's a super cool horse. Excellent paint job. Probably a special run from the early 2000s. Next, we have the buffalo. I think he said there was 1 buffalo. I've already forgotten. This guy, I vaguely remember, his name is Choc. C-H-O-C, I think, and he's in a very cool kind of brownish gray heavy gloss. This was a BreyerFest special run, I think around that time, the early 2000s. It was one of the early, when they started doing the multiple special runs, because first at BreyerFest there were none, and then there was one, and it was insane, and it's a long story. And then they had, I think that was Excalibur, then they had Shannon, and they were so popular, Breyer went, oh hey, here's some more money we can make. So then they started doing like 4 or 5 different special runs, and one of them would be an animal, and usually the animal they made fewer of, so they made like 700 of the animals, and then they made 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500 of the horses. So this is from that time frame, early 2000s BreyerFest special run. Different than last week, we saw that Mariah's Boon. That was the horse you got with your ticket. This one you had to pay extra for, the privilege of purchasing. Very nice though, super high gloss, and he has a dorsal stripe. He has tri-eyes, so he has brown and then he has pink above that. Super nice, super attractive. And not made a lot. 750 is a fairly small special run, so a really cool model. Let's see what we have next. We have one of the bulls. This is the walking horned Hereford. This is the original 1960s. Not modern at all. And the collector paid $50 for him. So he is in the brown, traditional brown with the gloss and kind of brown eyes. I think there's some variations. I can't remember, but like I vaguely remember they have brown or black eyes. Decent condition. He's got a few rubs on his high spots, but not too much. Nice overall piece. No stickers or anything else of interest, but he is intact. Sometimes you'll find him with broken horn tips or other damage, and he's actually in very nice shape for his age from the 1960s to make it to today. Next, we have another of the walking Hereford. This one is another one of the special runs. They get the fun bags. This was another BreyerFest special run. God, I don't remember his name though. Absolutely no clue. How time flies. So he's going to be in the same time frame as that buffalo, the early kind of 2004, 2005, mid 2000s BreyerFest special runs. This guy is in a glossy black, very similar to his brother with the glossy brown, but glossy black. I believe, if I remember correctly, Cheryl Leisure designed this, and it looks super nice on him, very attractive. I love the black and white. So since he was in that same time frame, early 2000s, there was probably around 700 of them made. Pretty rare, and he was fairly popular for a while. I think his popularity's maybe dropped off a bit, but could pick back up again. He's a really super cool looking guy, so somebody likes the walking Herefords. Next we have the Longhorn mold. This is another BreyerFest special run, and they conveniently left the BreyerFest original price tag on him for me. He was originally $55. Same time frame. Back then, these guys weren't marked. I think nowadays they come with gold on their belly, like BreyerFest special run 2000 or whatever. But back then they weren't marked at all, and I think you got little cards some years, maybe certificates, but I think I remember the little cards. And they just come in these plastic bags that are vexing me because they're double knotted, but I am going to get him open before I run out of stuff to talk about. So this is the Texas Longhorn in a glossy gray Breyer Pinto. Really nice paint job. Lot of detail on this guy. I mean, just looking at this guy, you can see this guy, they just kind of masked him and shot him black. This guy got shot with multiple colors to create kind of depth around his sculpting. And he's got splatter resist dapples underneath. Then he has his cross over his shoulders, details on his tail and his knees. And then his neck is actually striped, and his horns are striped, and his eyes are painted with a brown in his nose. There is a lot of work that went into this guy. And then, of course, the gloss on top. So this is a very large model to keep on your shelves, but I like to keep him sideways because he just looks cool that way. And this is a lot of detail on this paint job. So again, we've got 3 now of the animal special runs, probably about the same, 700 made, same time frame, 2004, 5, 6 now maybe. Don't test me on which BreyerFests these guys went to, but I do remember them. Next we have another Longhorn. This guy is in a bag, and he's got a hang tag. So I'm going to say he's probably a special run. I don't recognize him at all. So hopefully the hang tag will provide me with some information. This is a very nice glossy red roan kind of effect. Just says Breyer Animal Creations. No marks on him. I don't think he was a BreyerFest special run. I don't recognize him at all. This is another paint job that took a lot of effort. He's darker on his head, blends nicely into kind of a solid orangey brown. Then the splatter dapples over the top with the pinto markings. It's probably around the 2000s era, so the pinto markings have a lot of blurring and errors on them because back then the quality control wasn't quite as good as it is now. But this is a really complicated paint job for them to attempt in this time frame. I mean, again, just looking at this guy that was about the same time frame, you can see the amount of complexity that goes into this paint job. They did a super nice job with it, but you can see that there's just blurring along the edges, not quite as crisp masking. So he's probably a special run. Just looking at the era of these guys, probably about the same time frame. Just don't quite know who he was for. And last but not least, it looks like we have a guy in a box. This is a Texas Longhorn, and you know what? This guy looks identical to this guy, except he's matte. So this is number 399 Texas Longhorn. He's much darker on the head and probably darker throughout. He's more of a red brown, whereas this guy is more of an orangey brown. But he looks to have the exact same pattern, and this is in a regular run box with a regular run number. He sold originally for $23.25. I'm impressed that they put this guy in the regular run line, because like I said, this is a really complex paint job for Breyer to attempt. And then, so what they must have done was he was the regular run, and then he was a special run. They didn't ever do the animals for the Christmas. He wasn't a BreyerFest special run, so the only other, and he wasn't, I don't think he was a hobby one. I would have remembered if he was like one of the Ginger Horse or one of them. Maybe QVC? I think they came with these hang taggies. So I don't know. He's a mystery to me, but hopefully somebody out there knows, and I'm sure you can put it in the comments. This was a fun box, lots of interesting animals. Hope you enjoyed. Join me next week and we'll see what we find. Thank you.